here again, we're going to talk about the situation that we currently have going on in China.
Yeah.
Today, we have 26 million people locked down. The Chinese government is saying there is no immediate respite for that particular situation. And I guess everybody is really wondering, you know, what's going to happen to supply chains? Are we going to go back to the same situation that we had, you know, many months ago? And of course, the other thing to add into the mix, I'll have to stop you there, is the fact that we're currently going through tender season at the moment.
Yeah.
Which means that many of the UK retailers, certainly the largest 20, 30, are actually tendering their freight for the forthcoming year. How do you think those things are going to impact one another, and how do you see the market for this year?
Yeah, I think it's quite difficult to predict the market because everybody thought the market was going to decline. I think we stated last time we was going to anticipate rates at around this time of year, anything between $9,000 and $11,000, which I think was pretty much on point. But then, obviously, one thing we have come across is the Putin situation and the Russian and Ukraine war. It was a sort of a negative and a positive effect. So a lot of Russian buyers obviously cancelled orders in the origin countries such as China, Bangladesh, which left a lot of capacity for the European customers and the US customers to then buy up. So there was a little bit of a market space there for anticipation of how we're going to buy, changing buying patterns, taking extra volume from a purchase point of view. And then, of course, we're finding now that the China lockdown has then impacted it on the opposite direction. Supply chain disruption is still there. USA ports are still heavily congested. Particular types of equipment, GOH, is very hard to get. You have to provide solutions for that. So it's quite a different approach again this year to last year. But I think the pricing is again going to increase. The demand will go up. It's a quiet time of year for most retailers this year. Many lockdowns have now stopped. So a lot of people are also spending a bit more money on their
But it's very difficult, I suppose, you know, because we don't actually know, you know, when there's no time frame given by the Chinese government as to when these, you know, lockdowns are going to end. I mean, how on earth can you actually plan for that? I think that, you know, our consideration is that potentially, you know, by May we might see a better picture, but I don't think it's going to be the picture that everybody wants to see. No, I think the market's softened, you know. Yeah,
the market's softened for sure. I think it's quite interesting with how people are changing their buying, as in procurement of freight. I think people were sitting tight to close the tenders because they thought that the market was declining a little and they were still going to get lower rates. And we know there's certain people who are still anticipating and looking to achieve 5 and 6 and 7 and 8,000 rates. But in reality, a rate to rate, it's exactly the same as last year. The rates were there at low levels. Contracts got torn up. No capacity, even at the spot rate capacity. So that's quite interesting to see how that's really going to pan out. And see where we go from there. But I think it's going to be, as demand picks up, ready to hit the seasonal markets again. I think that's going to be quite interesting.
But don't you think, as we see potentially, not the demise, because it'll never be the demise, but I think the services from the large shipping lines, you know, going backwards, I think there is a strategy by a lot of retailers. You've got 3 options there, haven't you? Or maybe even 4. You've obviously got air freight of the garments, which is probably not the way you want to go. You've got the middle ground, which is the sea air, and then you've got the charter option, which is a direct option from many of these locations, mainland ports, Yantian, Ningbo, into various locations into the UK, Chittagong coming on, and also Vietnam. And then you've got the option of the cheaper option, but of course volume is cut on those larger services. So I think there is a host of things there for retailers to take. I don't think the classical way of, you know, conducting or negotiating their contracts is anywhere near the same.
Gone are the days when you're 2nd, 3rd and 4th in a tender because the price is more so you still can't ship it. And what you just touched on there with Bangladesh is quite interesting because another impact on the supply chain is the issues in Sri Lanka at the moment. Their currency's tumbled. They've invested money here, there and everywhere, and there's big trauma. So the Indian subcontinent central hub, if you like, Colombo, has got its own issues. There's a lot of disruption there. So it's really just deciding how it's going to pan out. I think we've seen multiple articles from the likes of Maersk Line saying supply chains are going to be in trauma again, pricing is going to be high, and we'll see how it pans out. Obviously Maersk have got an aggressive approach, which is working quite well for them at the moment. You know, buying companies and mergers and acquisitions and things like this. So that's really, really quite interesting.
So over the next few weeks, we don't see the market going to where it was last year, but we certainly see increases coming, and the services that are provided by the large shipping lines will be dysfunctional, to say the least.
Absolutely. Transit times that are advertised aren't going to be hit. The advertised transit times, I'm pretty sure the lines, they know this themselves, but it's pretty disruptive. The bigger ships these days are more of a classical, get more on the ship and get more cargo delivered, but the bigger ships cause more problems at port operations. So it's, it's quite interesting in that aspect and how it's going to pan out, but the next 4 to 6 weeks can only tell.
And I think our boutique charter option has been taken up quite nicely by the retailers, and I think for good reason.
Yeah, absolutely. They need products on shelves, they need route to market, and they need it to be sustainable and reliable. So even a bad boutique service is much better than a transshipment getting stuck at multiple ports around the world, because the bigger mother vessels are just having all kinds of problems, offloading, unloading, berth patterns, you know, again, still slightly impacted from the Suez Canal issue as well. So everything really hasn't recovered.